Silicon solar panels now cover deserts, rooftops, and entire power plants worldwide, one of the most celebrated clean energy inventions of the last century. But inside Chinese labs and factories, researchers have started asking a question the solar industry avoided for decades. What if the solar panel, exactly as the world knows it, is already on its way to becoming obsolete? For most of the world, the solar panel means one thing: silicon. Over 90% of solar modules installed on rooftops, in fields, and across deserts are cut from this one material. Silicon's rise was never guaranteed, but it won the global race because it could be manufactured by the mile. Its chemistry was well understood, and every year it got a little cheaper. Factories in China, the United States, and Europe churned out billions of cells, each stamped from purified sand, each ready to turn sunlight into electricity for decades. The silicon panel became so common that, for many, it stopped feeling like a breakthrough and started to seem as ordinary as glass or steel. Its reputation rests on reliability, mass production, and the simple fact that it works. Yet, as the world's energy needs keep rising, a quiet question has begun to echo from China's research labs and industrial parks. Can the technology that conquered the world hold its ground against something entirely new? Or is it about to be outpaced by a challenger built in the same factories that made it king? Silicon's reputation rests on decades of relentless progress, but a stubborn ceiling has always hovered overhead. The physics are clear. A single layer of silicon can only convert so much sunlight into electricity. This upper boundary, known as the Shockley-Queisser limit, sits between 29 and 33% for single-junction cells. In practice, today's best commercial silicon panels already deliver 20 to 23% efficiency, remarkably close to that theoretical wall. Each new generation squeezes out a fraction of a percent more, but the leaps of the past have become careful steps. The reason is built into the material itself. Silicon can only absorb and convert a fixed slice of the sun's spectrum, and every attempt to push further runs into diminishing returns. The industry's celebrated gains have started to slow, not because of a lack of effort, but because the game itself is nearly played out. The question is no longer how far silicon can go, but what happens when it finally runs out of room to grow. Inside China's research labs, a new kind of question began to surface, not how to push silicon further, but whether a different material could capture sunlight in ways silicon never could. At Nankai University, the Beijing Institute of Technology, and the University of Science and Technology of China, scientists started to look beyond the familiar crystal lattice of silicon. Their focus turned to perovskite, a mineral first discovered in the 19th century, but with a crystal structure that can be built in the lab to absorb parts of the solar spectrum that silicon leaves untouched. This wasn't about making silicon better by a fraction. It was about using a fundamentally different approach. Perovskite's structure acts like a net for wavelengths of light that slip past silicon's grasp. At Hefei, BOE, Solar Technology and other centers, teams explored how this new material could work alongside, or even instead of, what the world had come to expect from a solar panel. The question shifted from squeezing more from the old champion to asking what happens when you change the rules of the game entirely. That's how a new ensemble of Chinese labs set out to prove, in real-world terms, what perovskite could do that silicon simply can't. Stacking two crystals, one of silicon, one of perovskite, creates a tandem cell that does something no single layer ever could. Each material catches a different slice of sunlight. Perovskite on top grabs the high-energy rays. Silicon underneath soaks up the rest. The result is a leap in efficiency that once seemed out of reach. In April 2025, Longi Solar, announced a perovskite silicon tandem cell that reached a certified 34.85% efficiency, a figure independently verified by the U.S. National Renewable Energy Laboratory. That number isn't just a record, it's a full step beyond what any silicon cell on its own can achieve. Not long after, Trina Solar moved the idea from the lab to the factory floor. Their new tandem module, built on an N-type TOPCon silicon cell and topped with perovskite, delivered 907 watts at 29.2% efficiency across the entire panel. TÜVSUD, a German testing agency, certified the result in June 2026. The module survived weeks of damp heat, thermal cycling, UV exposure, and potential-induced degradation, passing every standard test required for solar equipment. These aren't just numbers, they're proof that the tandem concept has crossed from theory to real, certified hardware, ready to challenge the old limits of silicon. A sheet of perovskite is not bound by the rules that define silicon. It can be rolled thinner than a strand of hair, pressed onto plastic, or draped across the curve of a building. In Kunshan, Jiangsu, GCL Optoelectronics has commissioned what it calls the world's first gigawatt-scale perovskite module factory. This isn't just a lab curiosity, it's a factory floor, with production lines built to turn out lightweight, flexible solar films by the kilometer. These films are now being tested in the Gobi Desert, where temperatures swing from freezing nights to scorching days, and in the thin air of Qinghai's high plateau. Even coastal cities are getting a taste, with pilot projects that blend perovskite sheets into the very skin of glass towers. Meanwhile, Utmolite's facility in Wuxi is producing large-format modules and building integrated photovoltaic products. Their pilot module, at 2.8 square meters, delivers 450 watts at 16.1% efficiency, with mass production lines aiming for 20%. The technology is beginning to show that solar power doesn't have to mean rigid panels on a roof. It could mean windows, facades, or any surface that catches the sun. At the edge of solar research, the question grows even larger. In Xi'an, Xidian University has built something that looks more like a launch pad than a laboratory. Their 75-meter test tower stands as a working model for a system that could collect sunlight far above the clouds, well beyond the reach of weather or night. The idea is audacious. Gather solar energy in orbit, then send that power wirelessly down to Earth. In 2026, the team proved that this wasn't just a thought experiment. Using their tower, they transmitted over a kilowatt of electricity, 1,180 watts, across 100 meters, achieving a DC to DC efficiency of 20.8% to a stationary receiver. The test didn't stop there. The system tracked and powered a moving target over 30 meters, and even managed to supply several moving receivers at once, all from a single transmitter. This wasn't a symbolic demonstration. Real power, delivered at a distance with targets in motion. Space-based solar changes the rules. No clouds, no sunset, just constant energy. As the beam cuts through the air, the challenge for every other solar technology becomes sharper. What happens to the race when the finish line moves from rooftops to orbit? China's solar research map no longer points to a single breakthrough or a lone champion. Instead, it's a crowded field where records fall in quick succession and factories race to outpace each other. In May 2026, teams at Nankai University and the Beijing Institute of Technology pushed single-junction perovskite efficiency to 27.17%, using an inverted cell architecture. Just months earlier, Hefei BOE's solar technology reached 27.37% with a different single-junction design. These numbers are not isolated flashes, they belong to a pattern. Across China, gigawatt-scale perovskite factories are either running or rising, signaling that the competition is no longer just about lab results, but about who can scale up the fastest. Even the established silicon giants are investing in perovskite and tandem research, shifting from skepticism to direct participation. The solar market is no longer divided between old and new. It's a full-scale race, and China is at the center. But as efficiency records keep climbing, one question hangs in the air. Can these new devices last long enough to matter? Every leap forward in solar technology comes with a catch, and perovskite is no exception. The same crystal structure that unlocks record efficiencies also brings a set of vulnerabilities. Moisture, heat, ultraviolet light, and even the trace oxygen in the air can all break down perovskite layers, causing performance to fade far faster than with silicon. Where silicon panels have proven they can last for 25 years or more, perovskite devices are still fighting to reach a decade. Even the most promising tandem modules, like Trina Solar's 907-watt panel, have survived only weeks or months of accelerated aging tests, not decades in the field. Another shadow hangs over the chemistry itself. The highest performing perovskite formulas almost always depend on lead, a toxic metal that raises alarms for regulators and environmental advocates. Lead-free alternatives exist, but so far, they lag behind in efficiency and stability. For now, the industry's best hope is to keep the lead locked inside tough encapsulation layers, but the long-term safety and recyclability remain open questions. Mass market rollout is still on the horizon. Trina Solar projects that large-scale warrantied shipments of tandem modules won't begin until 2028 or 2029. Silicon, for all its limits, is not obsolete yet. But for the first time in decades, it faces a challenger with real momentum. The question is no longer if change is coming, but how soon it will arrive. China's next-generation solar isn't a distant promise. It's arriving on factory lines now. But every leap brings new questions. Will these breakthroughs endure, scale, and stay safe? The real race isn't just for efficiency, it's for trust. The sun keeps rising. So does the uncertainty. What would you bet on?